Julie Fei Fan Balzer. Now, styrofoam printing is going to get a fresh start today. Now, you probably have bought either meat or vegetables or even fruit at the supermarket, and it's on like a styrofoam tray. So that styrofoam is great for this. You can also just buy styrofoam sheets if you want, but essentially the styrofoam with either what is a dull pencil or a ballpoint pen will indent. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to draw on here, and you can see that as I draw, and I'll go over it a couple times, it creates a dent. And that dent is what is going to allow us to create some stamps to work with. Now, this is a great thing to do with kids because it's easy, it's fast, it's inexpensive, but it's also a great thing to do with adults. This is kind of like if you're a fan of Zentangle, you can do that. If you're a fan of just plain doodling, you can do that. If you just like mandalas, whatever it is, you're basically just going to keep playing with this. You can even get really detailed marks, like little dash lines and stuff like that in here. I've done dots. I mean, you can really have fun with how much texture you get. And if you want anything to be a big filled in space, you simply just keep pushing it down so that it gets filled in. Once you have a design that you're happy with, and you can see I did part of this in pen and part of it in pencil, it doesn't matter. Anything goes when you're playing with styrofoam. I like to take my scissors at this point and go ahead and cut it out. Now you can do a simple cutout where you just go ahead and, like, let's say, get around the edges generally speaking. Or you can get really fancy and take some time and go ahead and get in all those little details. Now, none of this is going to show. You're never going to see the edge of this, so I don't generally find it necessary to do these tiny little cuts like this. But if you want to, you absolutely can. You just want something that's a nice, clean, easy surface for you to pick up and to use. So you can see I have a whole bunch here that have been lovingly used, and these will hold up for a little while. You can make them any kind of shape or even just leave them as a square, whatever works for you. Now, I am going to be printing today on a gelatin plate. That is not the only way to do it. You can certainly just use them like regular stamps. You know, take some paint, put a brayer, and just go ahead and stamp them. But I really like the idea of adduction or addition and deduction, where you're sort of adding and taking things away. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of gel medium on my plate. And the reason that I'm putting some gel medium out is because I want to be able to use some acrylic inks. And normally acrylic inks are too thin. So what they're going to do is bead up on the plate. So what the gel medium is doing is it's allowing me to have a surface for the acrylic ink to grip onto. It gives it, I'm making up a word here, but it gives it good gription. So you can see that I'm just spreading out my gel medium, and I do have a baby wipe just because gel medium is glue and I don't want the glue to dry on my brayer, so I just make sure to clean that off. And then you can take your acrylic inks and you can put out as much or as little as you want. We're going to do this kind of fun addition subtraction technique, so I'm going to just put out a little bit of acrylic ink on one side of the plate, and you'll see what I mean. Now, normally you might not mix blue and orange, but baby, we are the bad people of art and we are breaking all the rules. So we're just gonna have fun, and it makes kind of a muddy color, but that's great because what we want is actually a darker color with this technique. So I'm just gonna go ahead and roll through here, and you can see I've spread that out. And again, if you want to clean your brayer, you can just go ahead and take a baby wipe and do that, okay? Now, we're gonna take our brand new stamp that we made, push it in to the painted side, okay? Nice pressure, pull it up, and what you'll see is the impression, and there's also some paint on here. So now, if I go half onto the painted area and half off, let's see if you can see what's happening there. I should be both taking away from one side and adding to the other, which is really cool. So you do want to move a little bit quickly just because you don't want anything to dry. But remember, you want to add paint to the part that doesn't have any and take it away from the part that does. So that is how we're both adding and subtracting paint. Now, I happen to be using just one stamp, but you could, of course, use a variety of stamps and shapes if you wanted. And once you have that done, then you're just gonna take a piece of paper, place it down onto your plate. Now, you can use your hand to rub the back. I like to use a Baron, which is just a printmaking tool, because if you're doing hours of this, and trust me, it's addictive, you will, you might want to have that as something that keeps your hand from getting sort of rubbed raw. It's really, and it gives nice even pressure. Then the reveal, my favorite part. Here we go. So you can see we have both added and taken away at the same time, which is so cool, right? We have the adding and taking away. Now, if the other side is too plain for you, here's a fun trick, which is if you use a transparent paint, so a paint that is not opaque, meaning that you can see through it still, and then you roll it out into the area where there was nothing before. I think I probably need a little bit more. Maybe I'll even add a second color, because like I said, we're crazy around here and we just do whatever we want, ignoring all the rules, because who would have thought that blue and orange would make for this lovely purple? But you only know when you give it a try. So there you go. I've got my paint rolled out. I'm gonna take my paper and I'm gonna try to lay it back down in the general same area. I can kind of use my fingers as a guideline here, but remember, being exact is for machines. When people make art, we make it just the way we are, perfectly imperfect. And again, use your hand, use the Baron, whatever it is that you want, and then go ahead and lift it up. And you can see now, how cool is that? That you're starting to get a sort of multi-layered print here, which I think looks really awesome. So if we look at some of the finished prints that I have over here, what you can see is you can leave your print alone, just like it is like this, which would be something you might see here. Or in a couple cases, I've gone on top of what's already here and just basically stamped a couple extra images so that you really get that nice impact, which I think looks great. And you can play with the colors and have a lot of fun. So just let me show you that last step so you know how easy it is to actually stamp with these. So I'm actually gonna use my gelatin plate as a palette, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the paint out and then roll over it. Okay, and then let's take a different stamp just for fun. Okay, this is so easy to do. You're gonna go ahead and just brayer the paint right onto that styrofoam, like so. Then you can either take something you've done, or you can take a plain piece of paper, okay? And then we're gonna go ahead and just treat it like a stamp. And again, you just push it down, make sure that it's on there, and check it out. Now, if it has some gaps in it, it probably means that you didn't have enough paint on there. So sometimes I'll actually push it directly into the paint that I've brayered out to try to get a little more paint on there. Let's see if we did a little bit better that time. And go ahead and lift it up. But again, like, I love that perfectly imperfect look. That's what you're looking for. And just continue to brayer over, sometimes brayering in multiple directions. But you can see how fun this is to easily create these incredible patterns with almost no work at all, which I love. Boom, there you go. So let's talk about cleanup. If you want to clean these, I wouldn't put it under running water and scrub it because it is styrofoam. Just take a wet baby wipe or even a wet piece of paper towel, and you just want to basically get the actively wet paint out of there. And if there's any sitting in the crevices, because that's what's turning it into a stamp. And you can see that you can just clean this off pretty quickly and easily. And this will just, it's not required, it just makes these last a little bit longer. The only other thing that I want to share with you is that it's really easy to make wrapping paper or big sheets of paper with these stamps. You can see that I've just used some paper bags, flipped them over, and then just stamped and stamped and stamped. And these look fantastic. So maybe when Christmas comes, you'll be ready to give everybody a gift with some handmade paper.